Imagine reaching your 70s, sitting down one day, and suddenly discovering that your father, the man who vanished when you were just 4 years old, was actually a high-priority target for Japanese secret police.
Right, and not only that, but he was a commander in a revolutionary army. I mean, it completely rewrites your understanding of your own family history.
Exactly. And that is the actual reality for the son of Korean independence fighter Han Sang-do. So today's deep dive is a mission into a recently recovered dossier of historical records, military logs, and personal letters.
Yeah, Han's son painstakingly assembled this whole archive just to uncover the truth behind a man who sacrificed everything for his nation.
And these sources reveal, just how impossible it was to survive as an independence fighter in the 1930s and 40s.
Oh, absolutely. It was a life lived in the shadows entirely by design, starting from day one of his military career. So in 1935, Han finishes his training at the Luoyang Military Academy in China. But when it's time to graduate, the school intentionally denies him and about 40 of his classmates their diplomas.
Wait, really? Because if China was actively training them at their own military academy, why hide it? I mean, weren't China and Japan already heading toward war?
Well, they were at odds, yes, but open war hadn't officially broken out yet, so these graduates were heading straight into covert missions in Japanese-controlled Manchuria.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if they were captured carrying official Chinese military diplomas, that paper trail would immediately trigger a massive diplomatic incident. China had to maintain plausible deniability.
So it's essentially a black ops graduation.
Exactly.
Because usually, a diploma is your proof of identity. But here, a diploma was a death sentence, and an international incident just rolled into one piece of paper. The lack of a record was the shield.
It was. But that shield didn't make him invisible. Because of these infiltrations, Han became a top target for the Japanese Toko.
And the Toko weren't just regular beat cops, right?
Far from it. They were the special hire police. Basically, an ideological secret police force designed specifically to crush political dissent and anti-Japanese resistance.
Wow.
Yeah, so to survive them, Han had to constantly shift identities, relying really heavily on the alias Park Hwa-son.
Imagine trying to piece together your family tree when the records were intentionally designed to deceive the deadliest police force in the region.
Yeah.
I mean, the camouflage was so effective that it actually fooled historians for nearly a century.
It really did. They thought Park Hwa-son and Han Sang-do were two entirely different people. The irony is just incredible.
Right. The ultimate camouflage from his enemies became the ultimate camouflage from history.
Exactly. Researchers only recently proved they were the same man by running complex archival matching. So they were cross-referencing ages, hometowns, educational backgrounds, and political ties.
But wait, if his entire survival depended on staying invisible, how was he simultaneously operating in the public sphere? Because the dossier shows he was a lawmaker who edited an anti-Japanese magazine called The Korean Voice. That seems like the exact opposite of keeping a low profile.
It does seem totally contradictory. But Han understood the mechanics of revolution. Smuggling a magazine into occupied territory was just as lethal to Japanese control as physical combat.
Because it waged an ideological war.
Exactly. It kept the spirit of the people alive.
Yeah.
And he balanced that public ideological warfare with highly classified physical defense. He actually served as the commander of the Korean Liberation Army Guard Unit in Chongqing.
And Chongqing is where the Korean Provisional Government was operating in exile.
Yes, and the Provisional Government was highly vulnerable out there. So Han's dual roles really demonstrate a holistic strategy. You need the press to maintain the purpose of the revolution.
Yeah, the ideology.
Right, and you need a specialized guard unit to keep the actual leaders of that revolution from being assassinated.
So he spent 17 years surviving in China, balancing this lethal game of hide-and-seek while commanding forces. And then he finally returns to his liberated homeland in 1946.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get to live out a quiet retirement.
No, it is incredibly tragic. Just 4 years after returning, during the absolute chaos of the 1950 Korean War, he just vanishes.
She's gone.
Yeah. The military records point to a couple of theories. He might have been killed in an airstrike near the Han River Bridge, or perhaps more likely, he was abducted by retreating North Korean forces.
Because they were actively targeting and kidnapping former provisional government officials.
Exactly. And he just disappears, leaving behind a 4-year-old son.
Han spent his entire life fighting to restore his nation. But his own son didn't learn the full story until more than 60 years later. He didn't even receive his father's posthumous 2005 Patriotic Medal until then.
It's heartbreaking. The very tactics that allowed him to protect his country, like the missing diplomas, the aliases, were the exact things that kept his heroic story hidden from his own family.
Han's massive historical contributions were nearly lost behind missing paperwork and survival pseudonyms, which really leaves you wondering how many other foundational heroes are still hiding in plain sight within our archives, just waiting for someone to finally decode their aliases.